Hi everyone, in this lesson we're going to talk about type inference. I briefly touched on this topic in our previous video, and in this video we're going to talk about it in detail. So what is type inference? Before talking about that, as you can see, I've provided some sort of comment here. Since all of our code is going to be in a single file, I want it to be easy for you to refer back to this file and go from one lesson to the next lesson. So you're going to have lesson numbers right here. You can just search for lesson 4 or lesson 10 or lesson 20 or however many lessons there eventually will be. Or you can just type in the name of the lesson. You're going to go to that lesson. And I will keep all the code. It doesn't matter if it is simple, if it is difficult, just for your reference, whatever I teach, I keep it. And then when the lesson ends, I just created this. It basically says end, E-N-D. The lesson has ended, and then another lesson starts right here. All right, let's talk about type inference. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the same example from the previous lecture, the example of age, and I'm going to create another variable as well. I'm going to say full name. Let's say John, this time Jane Doe. Cool. All right. Now, type inference is when TypeScript tries and infers the type of a variable for us. And most of the times, it does a pretty good job. Most of the times. Like, really a lot of the times, but not all the times. So I know that the type of this variable is a number. Now what I can do is, for this specific, very simple variable declaration, I could go crazy. I could say number, and then I could just type annotate all of my variable declarations. I could do that. Or I could let TypeScript does that. So if I hover on that, we can see that age has a type of number. So TypeScript has inferred the type for us. That's what type inference means. Type inference means that you don't write the type. TypeScript infers that type. TypeScript assumes that type for you. And it is most of the times correct. If it is not correct, then what you can do is you can just type annotate that variable or that function or the return or whatever. And so that was the type inference for a number. What about a string? Yes, TypeScript can infer the type of a string as well. Now, when TypeScript does this type inference, it doesn't mean that we lose type safety. Type safety is when you don't want a variable of one type to be assigned a value of like another type, what we saw in our previous lesson. So even if the variable's type has been inferred, I cannot assign a string to it, a different type to it. If I hover on it, we get the same thing. Type string is not assignable to type number. This is the same error that I talked about here, so I'm not going to talk about it again. So type inference is still type safe. That's a good thing, right? Now, again, type inference is a time-saving tool for most of the times when creating simple variables. Now, there is an exception that we should not use, we should not rely on type inference. And that is if we just want to initialize a variable and not assign it, it is a good practice to type annotate that variable and avoid TypeScript's inference, because TS will infer a type that we want to stay away from for most of the times. And that type's name is type any. So let's see that in action. Let's say I have a score. Let's say I'm creating a game and I have a score and I'm not sure what the score's value is. So I'm just going to initialize it and I'm not going to give it a value and I'm just going to let it stay. So the value for this, let's say in my mind, what I have is I want it to be a number. But if I hover on the score, we can see that the type of this variable is actually any. And this any type, what it basically means is that this could be of any value. So any can be a number, can be a string, can be a boolean, can be a big int, can be anything that you can think of. And whenever you use any in TypeScript, you lose type safety. I did talk about type safety, right? So what we want in TypeScript is type safety. We don't want to lose it. So if you lose that, your TypeScript basically becomes JavaScript. And then there is no point in learning TypeScript. Now, type any does have its potential use cases, and I have talked about that extensively in my Udemy course. And let's see in action why this could be an issue. So if I have a score, I could set it to like 101. I could set it to a number. I could assign a number to it. But at the same time, I could assign a string. Now, this is not something that we want. So what is it? Is score a number? No. Is score a string? No. It is of type any. And we want to avoid this. So I'm just going to wrap it in a comment. And I'm going to say, bad. Don't do it. Unless you have to. Keep in mind. I'm just going to say, unless you have no other choice. Cool. I'm just going to keep it here. Now, what is the solution to this? What should you do? Now, the way that you're going to type annotate these kind of stuff is you're going to stay away from TypeScript, type inference, and you're going to just type annotate it. So you want the score to be number or string. For example, you want it to be number. You're just going to write number. Now, we have initialized this variable. We have not declared it. We have not assigned it a value. Now, what I can do is I can assign it a value of 101. That's cool. If I hover on the score, we can see that it's not any, it's a type of number. But what if I want to go ahead and give it a string value 50? And then we end up with the same error. Its type string is not assignable to type number. All right, that is it for this video. See you in the next one.